There is a specific, suffocating, heavy fatigue that creeps into the life of an ambitious individual, and it has absolutely nothing to do with physical labor. You wake up after 8 hours of sleep, but your eyelids feel like lead. You sit at your desk staring at a blank screen or a clean slate, and you can physically feel a massive, unexplained resistance dragging your consciousness backward. The creative fire that used to ignite your mornings has diminished to a faint, cold pile of grey ash. You attempt to push forward. You try to force your willpower against the horizon, to initiate a monumental new venture, to secure a completely different tier of financial evolution. But the machinery of your reality simply spins in place, throwing sparks but producing zero forward momentum. The mainstream cultural folklore immediately diagnoses you with burnout. It tells you that you are working too hard, that you lack chemical motivation, or that you need to take a shallow, superficial vacation to recharge your battery. That is an absolute low-tier delusion. You aren't burnt out. You are being systematically bled dry on the subtle plane. Right now, as you watch this screen, you are trapped in a lethal, unseen web of your own making. You are ensnared in the Chronos Trap, in the raw, uncompromising engineering of higher occultism. Every single project you abandoned halfway, every profound promise you broke to yourself or others, every toxic relationship you left hanging on a silent pause, and every unexecuted strategy you kept warm in your mind is not a dead memory. It is an active, open, high-voltage psychic port. Today, we are going to perform a cold, clinical demolition of these hidden leaks. We will expose the terrifying metaphysics of the unfinished cycle, map the literal astral cords that are siphoning your life force into the graveyard of your past, and deliver the precise, high-magic Saturnian protocol to violently cut the tethers and recapture the massive ocean of energy required to materialize your absolute dominance. This if you are tired of running a multi-million-dollar intellect on an empty battery, if you are ready to stop feeding the ghosts of your history, lock your focus into this frequency immediately. Subscribe to @esoteric.architect to seal your perimeter. Drop an energetic like to claim your position in this grid, and let us begin the execution sequence. To comprehend why your present reality feels so heavy and restricted, you must understand how your vital force, what the ancient mystery schools called Vril or prana, interacts with the fabric of time. Your energy is not a static pool sitting inside your physical body. It is a highly fluid, dynamic stream that flows outwards from your present moment to construct the geometry of your future. When you initiate a major intention, when you declare, I am going to build this enterprise, or I am going to settle this profound dispute, or I am going to master this esoteric system, your consciousness projects a massive beam of vril forward. This beam creates a dynamic, living, etheric matrix. It is a portal in the unmanifested realm that requires continuous energetic nourishment until it reaches its natural point of structural crystallization. If you complete the task, the portal closes, the matrix hardens into a physical asset, and the excess kinetic energy loops back into your core nervous system as a profound, ecstatic surge of absolute power. But what happens when you simply walk away? What happens when you encounter a temporary obstacle, flinch under the pressure, and leave the project dangling in a state of permanent incompletion? The portal stays wide open, the matrix remains hungry. Because you never officially terminated the cycle, a thick, sticky, highly resilient astral cord remains permanently attached to the back of your energy field. It stretches backward across the timeline, anchoring straight into that abandoned space. You think the project is dead because you don't look at it anymore, but from the perspective of the subtle plane, that unfinished cycle is an active, parasitic entity. It operates like an etheric vacuum cleaner, silently and relentlessly pumping your live creative force out of your present moment to sustain a ghost that will never be born. You are literally starving your current ambitions to feed a graveyard of phantoms. Let us ground this terrifying occult reality in a real, brutal case study from my private advisory practice. A few months ago, a brilliant entrepreneur named Julian came to me. Julian was a force of nature. He had successfully scaled two major manufacturing operations in his 30s, possessed a rare strategic intellect, and was positioned to close a massive equity partnership that would permanently secure his family's generational sovereignty. But when he sat across from me, his eyes were completely hollow. His skin looked grey, his hands were trembling slightly, and his business was starting to stall. He told me, "Alex, I don't understand what is happening to me. I have the capital, I have the team, and I have the market opportunity. But every time I try to sign the final contracts for this new merger, my mind completely glazes over. I feel an insurmountable, invisible weight dragging me down into a state of absolute despair. It's like I am walking through thick mud." We bypassed all the superficial psychological chatter and initiated a deep, esoteric audit of his timeline. What we discovered was a horror show of open ports. 4 years prior, Julian had abruptly walked away from a tech startup he co-founded, leaving his childhood friend with a mountain of legal ambiguity and unresolved operational debt because the relationship had become uncomfortable. 2 years after that, he began writing a comprehensive industry textbook, completed 80% of the manuscript, and then simply left it in a digital drawer because a sexier venture caught his attention. He also had an unresolved inheritance dispute with his sibling that he had chosen to ignore for 5 years, leaving it in a state of permanent, tense silence. Julian believed these things were buried in his past. In reality, he was standing in the present moment with three massive industrial-grade energetic hoses hooked to his spine, pumping his daily Vril back into his history. His focus was split across three separate dimensions of time. He didn't have enough power left to sign the new contract because he was spending 80% of his daily spiritual currency just keeping his past ghosts on life support. He was drowning in the Chronos Trap. To break free from this parasitic drainage, you must understand the cosmic authority that governs these cycles. In the architecture of the cosmos, time is not a loose, disorganized, chaotic sequence of events. Time is an absolute, rigid, geometric ledger overseen by the stern, uncompromising archetype of Saturn, known in the ancient esoteric streams as Chronos, the lord of the boundary, the master of the threshold. Saturn does not tolerate loose ends. He does not recognize the concept of forgetting. In the Saturnian ledger, every single cycle you open is a formal contract signed with the universe. It is a spiritual debt that must be settled down to the absolute micro penny. When you leave a cycle uncompleted and attempt to leap forward into a new field of wealth or power, Saturn moves in as the ultimate cosmic collections officer. He manifests the law of restriction. He creates an invisible, energetic wall around your current perimeter. Have you ever wondered why, no matter how many positive affirmations you chant or how many strategic changes you make, your revenue hits an exact, unbreakable glass ceiling? That is Saturn pulling back on your tether. He is looking at your ledger and saying, "You will not receive one single watt of additional creative power for your future until you return to the past and formally balance the ledger of your unfinished actions. You cannot outrun the master of time. You cannot trick the keeper of the boundary. If you want the restriction to lift, if you want the heavy gravity of despair to vanish from your life, you must stop running from your history. You must turn around, face the debt, and prepare to execute a cold, clinical, and total energetic liquidation. The most dangerous element of the Chronos Trap is what I call subtle amnesia. This is the comfortable, insidious lie your ego tells you to protect you from the pain of your own cowardice. When a project becomes too difficult, when a relationship requires a brutal, agonizingly honest conversation, or when a personal discipline becomes too heavy to carry, the weak operator does not say, "I am permanently ending this right now." That requires too much masculine force. It requires looking at failure dead in the eye. Instead, the ego whispers a softer, more lethal compromise. "Let's just put this on pause for a moment. We will return to this next season when we have more time. We will settle this argument later. We will finish this book next year." This is the trap of the permanent pause. By choosing the comfort of the pause over the finality of a clean conclusion, you create a state of high-frequency astral suspension. The cycle remains alive, hovering in your perimeter like a dormant, invisible virus. Weeks turn into months, and months turn into years. You completely forget about the project on a conscious level. But the subtle amnesia does not break the etheric cord. The cord hardens over time, transforming from a flexible thread into an iron chain that permanently anchors your consciousness to a dead version of yourself. Every single paused moment in your life is a patch of quicksand that is slowly, silently freezing your capacity to evolve. You must replace the comfort of the pause with the cold, sharp execution of finality. If you are ready to shatter the chains of Saturn and reclaim your stolen sovereignty, we must immediately initiate Phase 1 of the Slingshot Protocol, the Chronomagic Audit. Tomorrow morning at precisely 9 o'clock, you are going to perform an act of ruthless, uncompromised historical excavation. You will sit in complete, absolute isolation with a blank, heavy sheet of paper. You will close your eyes, drop your awareness into your center, and force your mind to descend into the deep basement of your timeline. You will write down a definitive, brutal list of every single unfinished cycle across 4 distinct categories. 1. The material entities, every incomplete business venture, every half-written proposal, every unlaunched product, and every abandoned financial asset that you left rotting in the dark. 2. The verbal pledges, every solemn promise or deep commitment you made to a partner, a family member, a colleague, or a client that you simply allowed to fade into silence without a formal retraction. 3. The emotional quagmires, every broken relationship, every toxic friendship, and every bitter conflict that you left hanging without a clean, definitive, and final word of closure. 4. The internal contracts, every non-negotiable vow of personal discipline, health evolution, or spiritual mastery that you made to your own reflection in the mirror and subsequently violated when the heat got too intense. Do not edit this document. Do not rationalize away the small items. If a random, forgotten name or an obscure 5-year-old project pops into your mind during this audit, it is because that specific ghost is actively pumping your Vril right now. Write it down. Face the list. This document is the exact map of your current energetic imprisonment. With the map of your captivity laid out before you, you transition immediately into Phase 2, the strategy of material closure. Look at your list. We are going to classify every single open port into one of 2 tactical categories: execution or liquidation. There are certain cycles on your list that are genuinely vital to your future destiny, but you abandoned them simply because you lost your focus. For these items, you do not write a new plan, you execute immediate mechanical action. If you have an 80% finished book, you schedule 2 hours a day to write the final chapters without exception. If you owe a client a strategic summary from 6 months ago, you sit down, compile the data, and transmit it to their inbox within 24 hours. You push the project through the birth canal to secure the return loop of your energy. However, the vast majority of the items on your list are dead weight. They are old ambitions that no longer serve your high-level sovereignty. For these items, you do not attempt a slow, painful resurrection. You execute an immediate, cold-blooded liquidation. You will contact the people you left hanging. You will look them in the eye or send a clean, unvarnished communication and say, "I am officially terminating our joint venture. I am withdrawing my involvement permanently. I wish you well, but my focus has shifted elsewhere." If you have an old company that is sitting in a state of semi-dormant legal limbo, you hire a corporate liquidator to dissolve it down to the ground. You do not leave the door open. You slam it shut with absolute, definitive finality, cutting the cord at the material level and forcing the portal to collapse. For the cycles that cannot be resolved through physical communication, the ancient betrayals, the relationships where the party is no longer accessible, or the deeply internalized self-sabotage loops, we must ascend to the level of pure, high-frequency ritual engineering. We must invoke the Blade of Chronos. To execute this high magic protocol, you will wait until the dark phase of the moon during the hours governed by Saturn. You will enter a completely dark room, strip away all electronic interference, and light a single pure candle of black wax. To anchor the space and alert the gatekeeper of time, you will burn a dense, heavy resin of pure myrrh or frankincense, filling the chamber with a thick, bitter, sacred aroma that slows down your brainwaves and pierces the veil of the astral plane. You will hold a raw, razor-sharp blade of black obsidian or a consecrated steel knife in your dominant hand. Close your eyes and visualize the list of your open ports. See the literal, dark, pulsating etheric cords extending from your solar plexus and your spine, reaching back into the past. One by one, call out the name of the project, the person, or the failure. Speak it aloud into the dark room with absolute, unyielding authority. I balance the ledger. I retract my Vril. I close this loop permanently. Bring the obsidian blade down across the visualized cord with a violent, physical sweeping motion. Feel the resistance snap. Visualize the severed cord instantly withering away, its energy rushing back into your physical torso like a wave of cold liquid lightning. Pass the blade through the black candle flame to cauterize the wound and permanently seal the portal. When the last cord is cut, blow out the flame and sit in the absolute, silent fullness of your reclaimed power. Now that you have executed the material closure and severed the astral tethers through the Saturnian ritual, your energy field is in a state of hypervelocity reconfiguration. The open ports are closed, but the entry points on your aura are still highly sensitive. If you step back into the chaotic, predatory marketplace without proper armor, the residual frequencies of your old habits will attempt to re-establish the connection. We must permanently seal the grid using the ultimate mineralogical shield, Black Spinel. You will secure a high-grade, natural specimen of Black Spinel, ideally a collection of sharp, octahedral crystals or a heavy, faceted piece, and position it directly at the southern boundary of your primary workspace. Spinel is a magnesium aluminum oxide mineral with an incredibly dense, cubic crystal system and a high refractive index. Unlike other protective stones that merely absorb ambient negativity, Black Spinel operates as a high-frequency energetic mirror and a crystalline sealant. Its rigid, unyielding geometry acts as an absolute firewall against the frequency of retrocausality. When you place Black Spinel in your workspace, its sharp crystal facets create a permanent energetic boundary that repels the phantom echoes of your past. It prevents you from falling back into the mental patterns of amnesia and hesitation. Every time your mind attempts to wander back into the comfortable lie of the permanent pause, the dark, intense clarity of the Spinel grid forces your consciousness back into the absolute focus of the present moment. It locks your system coordinates into the now, ensuring that 100% of your available Vril is channeled exclusively into the construction of your empire. To witness the explosive reality of this turnaround, let us look back at the conclusion of Julian's trajectory. After undergoing the Chronomagic audit, he spent 2 agonizing weeks systematically clearing his historical liabilities. He sent the long overdue legal retractions to his former tech partner, officially dissolving the entity. He spent 3 intense days finalizing the core structural layout of his industry textbook and formally licensed the uncompleted intellectual property to a third-party publisher, closing his involvement for a fixed royalty share. He sat down with his sibling and signed a binding, permanent settlement that closed the inheritance dispute forever. The physical and energetic feedback was instantaneous and monumental. The very next morning, after his final Saturnian cutting ritual, Julian woke up at 4 o'clock without an alarm. The leaden fatigue that had paralyzed his biology for 18 months had completely vanished. His skin was clear, his focus was razor-sharp, and the heavy feeling of despair was replaced by an intense, roaring current of pure, predatory execution energy. He walked into the negotiation room for the stalled equity merger with a completely altered energetic presence. He was no longer a split, bleeding operator begging for stability. He was a unified, sovereign architect commanding reality. The opposing corporate board members physically felt the shift in his frequency. Within 72 hours, the grid locked. The deadlock broke, the ambiguous clauses were dissolved, and Julian signed a monumental $14 million venture deal that transformed his corporate footprint. He didn't need a new strategy, he simply needed to stop giving his power away to dead versions of his history. We have arrived at the ultimate realization of the slingshot protocol. The restriction you have been experiencing is not a permanent curse. It was the natural, mechanical response of a universe that refuses to allow you to build a magnificent future using a fragmented, bleeding foundation. The moment you have the masculine courage to stop running from your past, to perform the audit, to execute the material closures, and to cut the astral chains with the blade of Chronos, the entire matrix flips its polarity. The tension drops to zero, and the slingshot fires with devastating vertical velocity. You are not weak. You are simply overextended across time. Clean up the ledger. Dissolve the paused cycles. Treat your open ports with the merciless finality of a sovereign execution officer. You have survived the trap, you have mastered the Saturnian laws of time, and you now hold the exact blueprint to unlock an unlimited, clean reservoir of creative power. Take a definitive, intentional moment right now to share this extraction blueprint with a powerful, ambitious operator who is currently suffocating under the weight of unexplained burnout and needs this transmission to reclaim their life force. Forward this link into your private inner circles. Document your absolute commitment to close your open loops in the comments below, and ensure your system coordinates are locked tightly into @esoteric.architect. The ledger is open. The blade is in your hand. Cut the chains, reclaim your Vril, and watch how fast your new world materializes. Stay sharp. I will see you at the summit of the grid.